The tension has nothing to do with rumor and everything to do with timing. Sources indicate that as new whispers circulate about sealed interviews with high-profile figures, Meghan Markle has quietly removed herself from California. It is not panic, it is instinct. Those who monitor these things closely recognize patterns in movement, the subtle shifts that come before exposure. And this moment, according to insiders, is one of those shifts. The concern is not speculation. It is rooted in documentation, emails, communications, and records appearing in ways never before seen. Meghan Markle stands at the center, while the palace braces quietly for the consequences of facts they can no longer ignore. The materials set to surface are not commentary. They are time-stamped, factual, and undeniable. They detail connections, coordination, and access in ways the public has never seen. The importance of these records lies in what came before. Prior to 2015, Meghan's name rarely appears in high-level communications. She moved through elite networks without fanfare or logistical coordination, her presence unnoticed, her influence minimal. Even appearances at exclusive venues like Soho House gatherings in Istanbul left her listed as merely another attendee. There were no private flights, handlers, or urgent movements to ensure she arrived. Invisibility marked her place in these networks. Everything changes in 2016. That year marks the beginning of her relationship with Prince Harry, and suddenly, her name starts appearing in communications where it never had before. According to sources, the shift was immediate and structural. Meghan was no longer just a guest or an observer. She became a person of interest, a figure whose presence carried weight because of her connection to the royal family. The narrative stops being about romance and begins to pivot toward logistics, access, and leverage. By early 2017, the difference was evident. Meghan traveled by private jet to a Caribbean wedding, while Prince Harry flew commercial. These details are not trivial. Private flights require coordination, authorization, and funding. They do not happen spontaneously. The emails reportedly highlight the precise orchestration behind her movements. Questions arise. Who cleared these resources? Who authorized the routes? And why did this only begin after 2016? According to insiders, the answer points to organized networks connecting elite influence, entertainment, and political power. Soho House, in this context, is not merely a venue, it is infrastructure, a private corridor where influence is exchanged quietly. Meghan's early associations with the group predate her relationship with Harry, but her utility within these spaces changes dramatically once she is linked to royalty. Key figures, including wealthy patrons whose names recur in these communications, reportedly facilitated her access to private transportation and exclusive invitations. Once connected to the royal orbit, her movements were no longer personal, they became strategic, deliberate, and documented. The emails in question, according to sources, span from 2016 to 2019, overlapping with the final years of high-profile scandals in elite circles. Before 2016, Meghan was largely absent in relevant networks. Afterward, she is mentioned consistently in ways that suggest attention and coordination. Her presence coincides with critical moments in these social and political spheres. This is not framed as guilt or wrongdoing, but as proximity and influence, a record of where she stood in relation to key figures at pivotal times. The narrative takes on a deeper layer when considering Meghan's connections within these elite circles. Sources claim she knew individuals connected to Prince Andrew's network, not superficially, but within the same social environment already under scrutiny. This proximity matters because it placed her near people whose behaviors would later come under intense investigation. While she may not have been implicated, she was in the orbit of events that would later have legal and public consequences. A particularly striking point in the emails reportedly involves her being identified as a potential witness by legal teams investigating high-profile scandals. This was not casual. Sources emphasize that the phrasing was precise. Meghan Markle is listed alongside senior royal figures as someone with relevant insight into events. Public reporting, according to sources, did not pursue this reference. The palace did not address it. The silence was deliberate, intentional, and protective. By this stage, ignorance is no longer plausible. The palace had authority to intervene early, to question, to slow or block momentum, but those measures were never exercised. Journalists, according to sources, were similarly aware but restrained. They did not need to investigate because the path was already known, and any inquiry would reveal sensitive links. Silence, in this context, becomes a tool, not merely absence, but containment. Containment of records, containment of actions, and containment of narrative. And now, according to insiders, the documentation is about to speak for itself. Emails spanning 3 years are set to surface, revealing names, movements, and coordination that were never intended for public eyes. These records show when Meghan Markle became a tracked figure, when resources were allocated, and when access shifted from invisible to deliberate. The palace is not panicking. They are preparing because the facts do not bend. They accumulate. Once released, they will permanently define her position in these networks. In short, this is not rumor. It is record. Meghan Markle is no longer a peripheral figure, but someone whose presence and movements are traced through communications that cannot be denied. The palace's calm does not indicate control. It reflects the anticipation of impact. The documents will speak in a way that cannot be silenced, corrected, or rewritten. What happens next will not be a story of speculation. It will be a story of timing, record, and irreversible consequence. The story shifts from observation to inevitability. According to sources, the emails about Meghan Markle do not interpret events, they timestamp them. They mark when she became significant, when her access expanded, and when logistics were coordinated around her movements. This is the difference between rumor and record. One can be dismissed, but the other exists independently of opinion. From 2016 onward, every movement, every flight, and every high-profile appearance was logged in ways that were not previously public. Sources insist that once Meghan entered the royal orbit, the mechanisms supporting her movements intensified. Private travel, handlers, invitations, and introductions were orchestrated quietly, with full documentation behind the scenes. Every detail was recorded, traceable, and deliberate. This is what makes the upcoming disclosures so consequential. The context of these emails is critical. The period they cover coincides with heightened scrutiny over elite networks, high-profile scandals, and legal investigations. Meghan's proximity to key figures during this time places her within spheres where influence, access, and decision-making occurred. While the emails do not accuse her of wrongdoing, they reveal participation in networks that the palace and public were never fully aware of. Her presence is a matter of fact, not speculation, and the timing aligns with moments that later became central to legal and political discussions. What is most significant, according to sources, is the shift in how Meghan was treated once her relationship with Prince Harry became public. Before 2016, she was largely invisible. Afterward, she became a monitored, facilitated, and influential participant. This transition was neither accidental nor spontaneous. Coordination, resources, and approvals were activated. Movements that were previously irrelevant now carried weight. Meghan's name appears with increasing frequency in communications documenting flights, events, and connections, evidence of her rising significance within both social and operational networks. Insiders describe Soho House as a key node in this infrastructure, not just a social club, but a nexus connecting entertainment, politics, and elite influence. Meghan's early engagement with the space placed her in proximity to high-profile individuals and events. Once she became linked to Harry, this proximity turned into a documented asset, moving her from peripheral attendee to central figure in orchestrated logistics and communications. Resources flowed, and her presence became consequential. The emails also indicate repeated access to influential figures, including those close to Prince Andrew. While Meghan was not a subject of legal proceedings, sources argue her proximity is notable. Her name appears alongside other senior figures in communications, sometimes referenced in a legal context as someone with knowledge or insight. This transforms the story from one of association to one of traceable documentation, showing where she stood in relation to events of consequence. Silence in this narrative is itself a form of action. According to insiders, the palace and press did not publicly acknowledge these records because control was preferred over disclosure. Containment, rather than confrontation, became the strategy. The documents were not destroyed, they were preserved intentionally to manage the timing and impact of their release. This makes the upcoming disclosures powerful. They bypass narrative control, bypass interpretation, and present a record that stands on its own. When the emails surface, they will show a clear progression. 2016 marks the point at which Meghan Markle becomes central to communications. 2017 to 2019 shows coordinated movement and access, and the culmination illustrates her integration into elite networks, previously invisible to the public. Timing, structure, and connections are the critical factors, not conjecture, not headlines. For the palace, the impact is strategic. Scandals can be spun, ignored, or forgotten. Documentation does none of these things. It exists, and its existence enforces consequences.